You're live, Your Worship.
All right, thanks very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome, members of council. Tonight is our council meeting for Monday, September the 27th, 2021. And so we'll get the meeting started here in a moment. I think all of our members are present, and our staff are with us as well. You may notice who are viewing our meeting tonight that this council is all wearing our orange shirts tonight in recognition of September the 30th, which is coming up. It's Truth and Reconciliation Recognition Day in Canada. Additionally, our council will also ask the CAO if he would ask for the flags in Clearview Township to be lowered to half-mast on the 30th, September 30th, in recognition of that. So I want to acknowledge that our staff was able to source these shirts to acknowledge the Every Child Matters theme through the Barrie Native Friendship Center and the Midland Native Friendship Center. And so we're very happy to continue to support those organizations with this. So, all right, members of council, it's a little out of our norm because we have been talking about our land acknowledgement statement. And being that this is just before the 30th, I'm going to offer you a land acknowledgement statement, even though we haven't had our meeting at this time. So I'm just going to read one that I wrote up just the other day. And I'd like to begin this meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards of the land and caretakers of Turtle Island. The municipality is located within the boundary of Treaty 18, which is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. The lands in Clearview Township are also the ancestral home to the Petuan people, the Tianatinati. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that today, being that we're acknowledging Every Child Matters today. Council, we'll call the meeting to order, and we will begin with their item number 1. There is no closed session. Item number 2 is approval of the agenda. So I have a recommendation. I'll read it, look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated September 27, 2021 as presented. And I have a mover and seconder on this. Mr. Broderick and Councillor Deneen, thank you very much. All right, Council, any concerns or questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And the agenda is approved, carried. Item 3 is the closure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Anybody with a disclosure? Hello, Madam Leachman. Councillor Leachman, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I will not be voting on the, what do you call it? The agenda from last meeting, the minutes of the last meeting. Sorry, I get it straight eventually because I was not here. So.
All right. All right. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You could acknowledge that. Okay, members of council, item number, if there's nothing further on disclosure, I didn't see any. Thank you. Item number 4, council, that's item number 4 is public participation. There is a new item on public participation I wish to read before I go to the items, and that is, be advised, comments and views expressed under the public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview Council or the administration. So council, item number 4.1 is a letter from Donna Bayless, and I have an extensive letter actually in regards to COVID-19 pandemic. Ms. Bayless asked several questions of us, and I'd like to point out to Ms. Bayless that the concerns of the pandemic, as in the direction and the legal authority to indicate any type of health activities or health directions that are being given to us, come from the province of Ontario, the federal government, and the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit in the case of our municipality. And so the direction and questions that you asked need to be forwarded on to the provincial government, but particularly, and perhaps even the federal government. Certainly at this level of government, we are not in a position to answer any of those questions that you posed. Thank you. Item 4.2, Mr. Dave Witzke. It's in regards to the recent library fundraiser, and it was, actually it's not recent, the library fundraiser has been ongoing for some time, ever since the library build was announced. He wanted to know with the recent donation that was made by a business in our community, what the balance is. And so I understand that we're around $112,000 in that account at this time. The goal was or is still 250,000. And so I want to acknowledge the volunteers that are working very hard to continue to do that. Fundraising events, of course, have been curtailed as a result of COVID. And so it's in great hope that the board will restart future fundraising efforts. In the meantime, donations to the Library Build Fund are always appreciated. And you can contact the chief librarian for any information about that. So thank you. Item 4.3, Mr. Dave Witzke also wrote us another letter. His question was in regards to the unsafe bridge at Centennial Park, or as he likes to call it, the unsafe bridge. It's not deemed an unsafe bridge. It's just cordoned off by the owners of the bridge. The bridge is the property of the Snowmobile Club. I've had communications with Mr. Vachon, who's responsible for our parks. He advises me that the bridge is slated to be repaired or replaced, and the owners of the bridge are going to do that soon, and it's up to them. And we continue to monitor the bridge and monitor the fencing around it. I can acknowledge that I agree some of the fencing did come down during that heavy wind and that rain, and so I understand that it has been reestablished, and the bridge is not being used by the public right now in any way. And of course, there's a walking bridge just to the east of where that, or sorry, to the west of that bridge. So it's easy to cross the little creek there in Centennial Park. All right, and the last thing I want to mention in public participation period, for the benefit of the public, our clerk has been very, very patient in regards to how we receive public participation. I've mentioned it many times at our council meetings in the past. I would like to just recognize it again. There is a public participation portal that needs to be used if persons wish to submit their public participation questions. The reason for the portal is that then it gets distributed to all the persons that are connected to the public participation part of our agenda. And that does need to be adhered to. We need to continue to use that service, and that is the best way to make sure that your question is distributed to the right people. Sending in average the emails to various members of council and or the clerk's office, while we can receive them and we will do our best to answer them, the reality is that they must use the proper public participation portal. It's the correct procedure. I would ask the public to continue to do that. All right, thank you. Any questions? Going to move on to item number 5. At this time, we have a deputation. So I thought I saw someone pop in a minute ago into our meeting from Jarlath Health Services. I'm not sure if it's Julia or David or whoever is going to join us. Perhaps they could turn on their cameras and they can join us for deputation from Jarlath. Madam Clerk, could you invite them in?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. All the attendees during the deputation, they are in the meeting currently. They can unmute themselves and they can turn on their cameras.
Welcome. If we can get them to join in anytime.
Thank you so much, Mayor Measures, and thank you, Sasha, as well. Sasha, I was able to unmute. I wasn't able to start my video because it says you can't start your video. The host has stopped it. Oh. There we go.
There you are.
Perfect.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you so much, Mayor Measures and Sasha. I certainly do appreciate that. I will introduce as well, too, just as we get started, some of my colleagues who are joining me this evening. So my name is Julia King, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Jarlath Health Services. Joining me this evening is David Jarlath, President, Harrison Jarlath, Director of Accounting and Administration, Bob Campbell, Construction Project Manager, all of Jarlath Health Services, and Ted Handy, Principal Architect of Ted Handy and Associates. So thank you again for allowing us this time this evening. Should I go right into the slide deck then at this point, Mayor Measures?
I think that would be excellent. Thank you, and welcome to all of your team members there.
Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, there we go. And Sasha, I'm going to ask for your help to advance the slides as well too, and I will do my best to provide you that reminder when it's time to advance the slide, and so you can move ahead to the next one. So given our time constraints this evening, I will provide a high-level overview of many of the slides in your package. It's our hope that this provides further context to the support we are seeking to be able to see the successful redevelopment of Stayner Care Centre. Next slide, please. Located within Stayner, I'm sure that the home is familiar to each of you, having had a significant presence in the community since its inception. The Jarlett family acquired the home in September of 2015, although the relationship between the Baker and the Jarlett family spanned decades before. Fully accredited, the Stainer Care Centre is the only provider of long-term care within the town. And although we're licensed to provide care and services to 49 residents, the current occupancy is 35, operating at a reduced capacity, not due to lack of demand, but rather due to COVID restrictions and the need to maintain isolation beds as mandated by the province with respect to COVID protocols. And our waitlist continues to grow. In advance of the acquisition, we began planning the redevelopment of the home. And I do want to reinforce that although we applied for redevelopment on various occasions to the ministry, the absence of a favorable response was not reflective of the submissions or the confidence of the ministry. The province simply wasn't providing redevelopment approvals, which you probably saw flagged considerably in the media throughout the pandemic. Next slide, please. So the redevelopment plans in a nutshell: once redeveloped, we will double our current capacity with an operating license of 96 residents, with pre-planning that has been completed should any additional beds be awarded. The redeveloped home will offer private accommodation for single occupants, or standard, which is a shared accommodation with a maximum of 2 residents, thus eliminating some of the current capacity restrictions in place due to COVID. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, mine was slow to advance there. I apologize. We're here tonight seeking your support of our ask for an exemption, reduction, or an innovative and collaborative strategy to offset potential DCs. Your support of this view will help to ensure a successful redevelopment, but in the absence of this, the viability of the project is threatened. We do trust the supporting documentation submitted in advance provided background on the project at hand to support our ask. Our residents, families, staff, and the communities we serve deserve the right to be cared for, live within, and work within long-term care homes of a modern design. But we can't do it alone. We need the support of local communities we serve. Next slide, please. So at the Stainer Care Centre, some of the services we provide: 24-hour nursing care with medical supervision, dietary and nutritional care, recreation, restorative and rehab, chaplaincy and spiritual care, housekeeping, and assorted environmental pieces, on-site hairstyling and barbering, volunteered services, and of course, significant paid employment. Essentially, we aim to create life, purpose, and meaning for our residents, families, and staff. Next slide, please. Like others of its vintage, the home was built to design standards of 1972. Today's design standards offer considerable advantages for all, but they also cost considerably more to build and optimally operate as well at the end of the day. The province opened up the application process for redevelopment of 30,000 beds or 309 homes in 2015. But despite multiple calls for application, very few awards were provided until the last couple of years. And despite the enhancements made by the province, the inherent shortfalls have resulted in only a small minority of awarded projects moving forward. Next slide. Under the ministry's Enhanced Capital Renewal Program, we are funded and do receive funding from the province through something called the Construction Funding Subsidy, or CFS, but it doesn't fund the entire project. Under CFS, we are funded on a per resident basis for homes up to and less than 96 beds, but we fund the building and the province then flows the funding to us over the following 20 years. The funding presently is equal to about 65% of the development cost. We are eligible to receive a development grant, which covers 10% of eligible development costs, but this specifically excludes development fees and many of the consulting fees incurred prior to construction. The CFS is not amended frequently. As an example, the previous system was in effect for 20 years. And the funding program doesn't work for many. The challenges include cost and availability of land, achieving the appropriate economies of scale, a lack of new or additional beds to allow homes to rebuild, and creating optimal efficiencies of scale, and the ministry licensing process. Next slide. Again, we believe in a proactive approach, and I reference this as it is in alignment with other proactive measures taken locally here. The next slide. We needed to be confident that we would receive the support of council and town, having engaged in discussions to identify our concerns of the viability of a 96-bed home. We are one of only a very few operators who will develop a home of this size, as it lacks the economies of scale which larger homes do achieve. Also, the viability of the project would require the help and support of town staff and elected officials. One of the elements of significant concern was with respect to DCs. We assured the town would be supportive and work towards a solution. Next slide. Many would ask why we would even consider redevelopment. The Ministry, Ontario Health, and the LINs are partners and their support is needed, but so is the support of the local communities. The safety of our residents and staff has and always will be our first priority. Stayner Care Centre has commendably provided a standard of quality care despite increasing constraints in a system designed for yesterday. Next slide. We truly do want to proceed with redevelopment, and this represents a significant positive impact for our residents, families, and staff, but also the community as a whole, resulting in economic stimulation both during the construction process and post-opening, such as employment, shopping, and tourism, for example. There is a huge benefit to the town through increased revenues on the property taxes. We currently pay approximately $35,000 annually. The home, once redeveloped, we anticipate will pay somewhere in the area of approximately $211,000. Next slide. It is our view that the home should be DC exempt, reduced, or innovative and collaborative strategies agreed upon to offset the potential DCs. In the documentation provided by the ministry, 24 long-term care homes were redeveloped under phase 1 and/or the 1996 DBED program. 14 of the projects did not have any municipal DCs levied. I'm unable to provide more current public data as, again, only a minority of projects have moved forward. Based on our experiences, I've also provided you with our most recent examples of DCs, which included the municipal, county, and school portions in advance of this meeting. Next slide, please. Others may have had similar asks for DC relief, but I would offer these concrete rationales. The services that DCs support are not utilized by our residents, such as parks, trails, arenas, and libraries. Our residents typically don't drive. We're not a hospital, but we do provide care and services in a congregate setting, such as hospitals do, and hospitals are exempt. So we do look to that as an example as well. Municipal homes and homes for the aged are also exempt from DCs. And it's our understanding neighboring communities such as Penetang deem long-term care homes as commercial and as such do not levy DCs for long-term care. Next slide. To reinforce, the funding provided leaves the operator needing to raise millions of dollars to fund the project. The funding, again, doesn't flow at the start of construction, but upon opening and is paid out over a 20-year term. The feasibility studies indicate an increased demand for long-term care services, and pre-planning for future expansion based on demand requires additional investment of dollars. Next slide. I truly am saddened to say that without a resolution, we would need to revisit our options. We want to develop here, but we need your support. Next slide. A month ago, we had to notify the ministry that the redevelopment of one of our homes at 96 beds is not feasible. We don't want to see this happen in Stayner, but again, we need your support. It bears noting that the viability of redevelopment projects is also of a concern to operators of municipal homes and homes for the aged. In 2 recent examples, projects were halted due to costs. Again, in both of these examples, even despite being exempt from DCs, the projects were halted. And I did provide the newspaper articles from that as well. Next slide, please. We seek the support of council to transfer the credit for DCs from the existing 49-bed Stayner Care Centre to the redeveloped home, reducing DCs by approximately 50%, with DCs to be applicable solely on the 47 new beds being developed. Applying the non-statutory exemptions undertaken by the Township of Clearview to attract development, we request the support of council to realize further reductions to DCs being levied. Developments constructed for uses with a significant community and benefit, as determined by council, may have up to a 50% reduction to DCs. Application of the exemption for industrial use developments creating jobs shall have a reduction in total DCs of 0.5% per new FTE direct jobs created to a maximum of 30%. Based on our review, applying the above strategies would bring the DCs in line with our most recent projects, including municipal, town, and education levies. Next slide. In conclusion, and on behalf of the residents, families, and staff of Jarlette Health Services and the Stayner Care Centre, we wish to extend our sincere appreciation for your thoughtful consideration and support of the challenges being faced. We are confident that Council will do the right thing and support a successful redevelopment of the home by granting our ask for support. Thank you for your time this evening, and thank you in advance for your consideration and support of the Stainer Care Centre. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Julia. That's excellent. Does anyone else in your group or your team wish to throw any comments in before I open the floor? Julia, do you want to lead that? Is anybody else?
Sure. I'll first ask David. David, is there anything else that you would like to take the opportunity to comment on at this time?
Julie, I think you did a good job. Thank you, Council, for hearing us out this evening. We much appreciate it. We really do look forward to working with Council, with the town of Stainer, people of Stainer, to get a new home for our residents in our community. So thanks for hearing us out. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you, David.
Harrison or Bob or Ted, any other comments that you might want to include as well before Mayor Measures opens that up to questions from Council?
Oh, I think you did an excellent job, Julie, of outlining where we're at. And if there's any questions about the building, the planning, or the character, well, certainly more than willing to respond.
Thank you, Ted. Mayor Measures, I'll turn it back over to you then at this point.
All right, thank you very much, Julia. And again, thank you for your presentation. Very informative. And it also was a good review for me as well. I know that we have met a couple of times in the past, and very glad, first of all, to see you guys again. And I'm glad that we're able to get you on our agenda for council to consider and to hear the full presentation. And frankly, how exciting it is that there would be an investment like this coming to the Township of Clearview. So at this time, then, I'll open it up to the floor. Is there any member of the council with any questions to Julia or her team about this project? Yes, I see. Oh, okay. I see Doug McKechnie first, and then Tom Patterson. Go ahead, Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm going to let Tom go first. I've got a couple of things I've got it written down here, so I'll let Tom go first. Thanks.
All right. Deferring to Councillor Patterson. Hello, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that presentation. What one question for the, the Jarlette team and one for our staff, just to put it in context. So what would happen with the current home if development did not go forward? Would there be maintenance to it?
Excellent question, Tom. Julia?
Sure. Thank you, Councillor, for that question. Realistically, again, the home as it stands right now was built to design standards from 1972. Those design standards at this point in time are outdated. So the ministry has updated those design requirements. And there is a requirement for those long-term care homes to redevelop. In the absence that redevelopment is not a feasible option, at the end of the day, the licenses would be returned to the ministry. Again, that's not something that we want to see happen. We truly are committed to redeveloping within the community of Stainer itself. But again, ultimately, at the end of the day, the design standards have been updated. And I think one of the things to reflect back on with the experiences of COVID, that certainly also highlighted the need for those aging long-term care homes to be redeveloped to ensure that the homes were equipped to meet the needs today and going forward in the future. David or Harry, would there be any pieces that you might add to that as well?
You did good, Julia. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I also am interested in the disposition of the existing home. You know, if you move ahead with this project, obviously you're going to have a home that was designed from 1972. So I suspect the building would need a redesign for another purpose. So if I can jump ahead of my councillors, is there any plan for the existing facility or existing structure?
Maybe I can answer that. This coming Friday will be the day where we have an architectural firm and engineers coming in to have a look at the building to see if it could be possibly changed into apartments or not. So they're going to look at the condition of the structure, try and do a layout to see if it's economically feasible to do that. So that's where we are today. So based on what we hear back from them, that will help us decide what our next steps are for the existing home.
Very good. Councillor Patterson, did you have something else?
Just one thing. I mean, there's a reasonable framework to address your question. I think it's a reasonable request. When will council and staff review the numbers on this project? Capital costs, the whole, what I would call a business case around this decision.
All right. Julia, can you just inform me, is your application in to us complete, or where are we at? I'm just drawing a blank on this right now.
Sure. So we have had a fair number of discussions with various town staff, and as Mayor Measures identified with him as well. The process as we understood it, recommendations from town staff were to first make a presentation or in the form of this deputation to council this evening. Which this is my words, certainly not the words that were expressed directly to me, but based on our past experiences with other deputations to council, essentially seeking the support of council for town staff to take that back and work through the numbers so that they can actually share that with council as well. Again, that's my assumption. Mayor Measures, perhaps you're able to comment further on that, but our ask was the request of us was first to formally present to council.
Absolutely, and I think that's exactly where we are. I see Mara Burton has joined us. Mara, would you like to give us a comment there about the status of their application?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Measures. They do have their site plan application in with us. We're on, it's been back and forth a bit through our engineering and through staff for review. And so we're awaiting their resubmission so that we can get them site plan approval to go ahead. So from a planning point of view, and of course, regarding the development charges, staff could certainly take this back and report back to council.
Fair enough. Tom, does that help answer your question?
Sure. Yes, it does. I mean, if we need a direction from council, one of us can provide it, but I'm certainly, that's where my questions were going to.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Mara, don't go away. Tell you what, let's go to Doug McKechnie next. Then I see the deputy mayor, and then I saw Councillor Broderick. So Mr. McKechnie, back to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so I was looking at this, and I just wanted a dollar figure, like how much are we looking at here? But I maybe that's hasn't been added up yet. I'm just wondering what the sort of dollar figure we're looking at in reduction in development charges. Do we know that yet?
Perhaps we go to before we go to the Jarlett team. Mara, would you have a comment about this type of thing, or did that go to the CAO?
If I can, Mayor Measures, we would like to look at that because there's a number of potential scenarios with respect to, the transfer of the 49 units, also the employment number and the reduction there. So there's a number of options for council. So it all kind of depends on which scenario we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. And I have a motion, but I'm going to wait until I hear what other people have to say. So,
all right, Councillor McKechnie, we'll keep you there. Deputy Mayor Burton, and then Mr. Broderick. Hello, Barry.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor McKechnie. I actually have a few comments to make in a motion as well. So, if you would mind, if you don't object, I would put my motion forward first, if that's okay with you.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay, so first comment
period right now. So if you have questions.
So first of all, my comments is I appreciate the presentation that was made to us today. As I'm sure you all know, I have been very involved in long-term care at the county level. I've attended all 4 long-term care facilities that we own. I've sat and had lunch and meals with all of our residents at those long-term care. So I realize how important they are. I've been to all the volunteer appreciation things. I was part of the team that got an extra $3 million from county to put in towards the operation of our long-term care facilities because quite frankly, the province was shortchanging us by about $3 million a year, and county stepped up to the plate. So I understand the importance of all this. And I actually challenged the Minister of Long-Term Care at the last real AMO thing we had. I stood up and challenged her on how she was going to prepare more funding for long-term care facilities. And that's, so that said, I wanted to put forth a motion for staff to report back on what the number would be to allow the discount of the existing building, of the development fees that were paid on the existing building, a 50% discount on the new beds that are being provided, and the discount for possible jobs that were being that are being proposed as a result of the redevelopment. So there'd be three things I'm asking for in that report. That would include a dollar figure. Those three things would be the reduction of the existing development fees that they paid, the 50% discount on the new beds, and the discount for the jobs they're offering. And that's my motion. I would look for a second for that.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll give the clerk a moment to actually prep it. Do you have anything further or any questions you'd like to ask? Because again, we're in the question period right now. Gary, anything?
No, I have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. Thank you.
Fair enough. Then I'm going to go right to Mr. Broderick. You had your card up. Do you have a question, Mr. Broderick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm just, and by the way, thank you very much for that presentation, Julia. That was excellent. I'm curious about the footprint of the new home versus the existing facility in actual square footage, and also a secondary question, any consideration to future expansion down the road?
Julia, how about to you and your team? Good question.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Broderick. Bob and Ted, I'm wondering if maybe you're best to speak to that question about the footprint of the building as well as potential future for expansion. Bob, could I turn that over to you?
Mr. Campbell?
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, so I can speak to that. The current home in square footage is about 370 square feet per resident. The new home is about 740 square feet per resident. The 96 bed home. So with our proposal, we would come in, we're going to be looking for about a 72,000 square foot long-term care home with the option to add on a retirement lodge as well for about 110,000 square feet and another 20,000 square feet of apartments. So it's a little over 200,000 square feet when fully developed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So
you, Bob.
you also have the ability to add another home area of 32 residents as well.
Yes.
Bring up the total long-term care capacity up to 128 residents.
Very good, David. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, thank you.
John, anything further?
No.
Okay,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to, before I ask if there's anything further, I want to go to Mr. Handy, the architect. Mr. Handy, we at Clearview Township do have a couple of features of the development charge bylaw that allow us to give discounts for some environmental concerns. So have you considered perhaps looking at green roofing or any of those type of environmental needs, or any gray water reusing? And there's some of those features that are in our DC bylaw right now that are available if you were to do this type of new build. So I wondered if Mr. Handy, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the bylaw and see how they apply, but one of the major features that we attempt to put in all our buildings is as good a building envelope as possible to save energy. So high insulation values, durability, all the aspects of what would be termed a LEED building in terms of efficient use, efficient fans, and those sorts of things that would give you what's deemed a sustainable building. So yes, and we will look at the DC bylaws and see how they may apply specifically. But those are the features that we start with the basis of the design.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Handy. That's great. If I may just ask Mayor Burton, Miss Burton, if you could make sure that the architect or Julia and her team get a copy of our pamphlet brochure that we have about that information. Thank you.
Absolutely, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Right on. Thank you. Any other members of council with any questions? Yes, Mr. McKechnie, back to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So regarding Barry's motion, at an appropriate time, I'd like to ask for a friendly amendment on that.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I was going to ask for a seconder and then we can go to the amendments stage. No further? Okay, is there a seconder? And then we can get Ms. Clerk to read it back to us. Okay, Ms. Deneen, we're going to go with Councillor Deneen as the seconder. Madam Clerk, would you be able to read it back? And then that way we can understand where we're at.
Thank you, Mayor Measures, through you to the rest of council. So the motion before council reads, be it resolved that staff be directed to report back to council on the discount of the development charges for the existing building of the Stainer Care Center operated by Jarlette Health Services, a 50% discount on development charges for additional new beds, and a discount on development charges for job creation.
Okay, thank you. That's the motion as presented, moved and seconded. Can I ask for the amendment, Mr. McKechnie?
Thank you, Your Worship. So that was very close to the motion that I was going to suggest, but I was just wondering if we could maybe add on there and to give staff a little bit more flexibility and add another item saying something to the effect of or other strategies to assist in reducing development charges. I just don't want to see staff tied down to those two strategies, that's all. So if they can, maybe staff might come up with another strategy. So that's the friendly amendment.
Deputy Mayor?
It's okay with me.
Councillor Deneen's nodding her head. Madam Clerk, you comfortable with that addition?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. If you wouldn't mind, I would just like to read the motion before council with that friendly amendment.
Sure, we can read it again with a friendly amendment.
Be it resolved that staff be directed to report back to council on the discount of the development charges for the existing building of the Stainer Care Center operated by Jarlette Health Services, a 50% discount on development charges for additional new beds, a discount on development charges for job creation, or other strategies to offset the development charges.
Sounds comfortable to me. All right. Good. Yes, Mr. Patterson, go ahead. I was just going to ask, is any questions on the motion? Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, I was going to ask Planner Burton if she did outline staff direction, obviously, to come back with much of what this motion is asking for. I just wonder if this satisfies all the options that she has, or would she like to have a further amendment to make it as flexible as possible for the staff to provide?
Good question. Yes, you're right. Ms. Burton, or even the CAO. Go ahead, Mara.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Patterson. I think the catch-all is helpful in the amended motion. I don't know if any of the other directors had anything that they wanted to add. I think the treasurer and I spoke this morning, so we'll certainly be working on something, but I think that I think the motion works for us to be able to do that.
Okay. Just confirm with the CAO, you're comfortable, Mr. CAO, that the direction being asked to look at all opportunities? You're comfortable with
thank
that?
you, Your Worship. No, I think it's a good amendment, and it gives us the opportunity if something comes up that we think that may work, we can use it.
Sounds fair. Okay, any members? Yes, Councillor Leishman. I was just going to call again. Any questions? Ms. Leishman, Councillor Leif.
Thank you. Mira, I wonder if we could actually have the total of what our portion of the DCs would be in full in that report too, please.
I would expect that would be there. Yes.
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Leishman. Absolutely, we'll do that.
Very good. I'll get to you in a minute, Deputy Mayor. Is there anybody else with any questions on the motion? Then we go to the Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. So those reductions are what I asked for the township. It's typical for the county to equal what reductions we offer. So that's typically what happens. So we offer a 50% discount. county typically follows through without, usually without any discussion, and it's just kind of an automatic thing they do, although it's not guaranteed, but it's typically what happens.
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, I recall us having that debate at a council meeting, so that's great to hear. Thank you, Barry. Anybody else with any questions or comments on the motion as presented? All right. Council, you've got them. Does anybody want it reread? Just checking. Okay. Council, you got a motion in front of you. A mover and seconder. It's been amended with a friendly amendment. And so I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. So, Julia, to you and your team, I wish you all the best, and I hope that you'll be able to work with our staff to bring a full presentation or a full, complete application in, and we want to see this moving as soon as we can. So hopefully we'll get a report back. And the other thing I'd like to just mention to the Jarlett team, thank you for all you've done with your essential workers over the COVID-19 disaster that's been going on, and thank you for all the effort you've done to serve our community. All the best.
Thank you so much, Mayor Measures, council, and town staff. Again, I can't express my gratitude and thanks enough to you for your support of our ask, and we truly do look forward to moving forward with the project, and confident that we'll be able to find a resolution. But thank you once again for your support. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. You're welcome to stay with us, or you can leave if you like. All the best.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
now.
you. All right. Thank you, council, for that. That was good. Good presentation, good deputation, and great to see some further investment in the township of Clearview. All right, council. Moving on to item number 6 is our public meeting. There are no public meetings tonight. We do, however, have item number 7, which is the approval of the minutes of the council meeting. So I'll read the motion. I'll look for a mover and seconder, and I acknowledge Councillor Leishman's comment earlier. Recommendation be it resolved the council of the township hereby approve the minutes of the September 13, 2021 council meeting as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder on the minutes? Mr. Broderick and the deputy mayor. Mr. Broderick and the deputy mayor. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. And council, business arising from the minutes, if any. Has anybody got any comments or business they'd like to acknowledge during this time? All right, thank you. Seeing none, we're going to move over to communications from the mayor. I've got a couple of items, both from the NVCA. So perhaps Councillor Patterson may want to speak on these 2 items. The one is the NVCA media release regarding tree plantings. I guess they're planning for 2022. And also item 3, which is the NVCA media release regarding the Pretty River Dike maintenance scheduled to start this fall. Now that, of course, is happening in the town of Collingwood, but it is adjacent to us, as certainly the Pretty River does flow through Ward 1. Councillor Patterson, would like to comment on any of these 2 NVCA items as our NVCA rep?
I'll include my comments in my ward report.
Oh, okay. And I was just going to take a sip of coffee, but I'll wait then. Thank you, Tom. Anybody with any questions of these 2 items that were on the vindication? Yes, Deputy Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to comment on the tree planting issue. I have many discussions, and although I support tree planting for bank protection and stuff like that, I do oppose tree planting on prime agricultural land. And this is something that's been happening in our own township, where a privately owned farm is all of a sudden they're planting 10 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres of prime agricultural land to plant a private forest. And it's not being done for the purpose of harvesting or anything. It's been done for the sole purpose of creating a private forest for private individuals. And I totally oppose that. And I will probably be bringing a report and motion forward in the near future because agricultural land is so protected today. You can't get a retirement law, you can't do anything, but the NVCA can support people to go plant trees and wipe out 10 acres at a time. And not only do they wipe out the 10 acres, they wipe out the additional acres on the other side. And I know several farmers in the area who have now just stopped working on fields that they rented that were privately owned because the planning of the private forest has ruined so much of the land that it's not worth their while to go do it anymore. So we have fields that are just turning to weeds as a result.
Thank you for your comments, Deputy Mayor. Is there anybody else with any comments on the two items on the communications from the mayor? All right, thank you. I'll read the recommendation. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township thereby hereby one, receive the communications from the mayor for information. Mover and seconder on this motion, please. Mr. McKechnie and Ms. Leishman, any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, that carries. All right, and now we're over to county reports. So there are a couple of items here. County reports and information, the new waste collection days and the new cart system regarding changes to the rollout, which is happening on November the 1st. I sure hope that people have received their carts by now. I know there are some areas across the county. I've heard that some areas have not received their carts yet, but I sure hope people have received them soon. Item number 2 is the county named Forest Capital for Canada in 2022, speaking of trees. And item number 3 is the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport is widening its horizon. Nice little piece of information there regarding activities at the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport. Is there anybody with any questions on these items, or perhaps, yes, Tom, go ahead, Tom.
Just on 10-1, the waste collection, I realize that has been some discussion at County Council with respect to public input to have a smaller, I guess, not larger, size choice. So first is a question. Can you say if County Council or county staff are considering a change to the option, or are we still going to wait for the 6-month proposal? And have any other municipalities sent in a request on the part of the residents to for the County Council to consider a choice in sizes?
First of all, I'd like to address your question and comment about public input. I can assure you that all members of County Council are receiving public input on this very important issue. We have received plenty emails, and I've received phone calls. I know that other members of County Council have received a lot of communication from residents. So there's no doubt that the public are being heard and are being consulted. Certainly at the last council meeting, County Council meeting, we had another great discussion on the item. I understand it is being moved up. The one item that was brought forward is whether or not we could engage the contractor to actually produce the smaller waste bins. That was deferred until the next discussion. Barry, do you have anything further on this? It's a tough one because we have been around and around about these garbage bins. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so I mean, as I've said before, that there is a test area being done in New Tecumseh. Yeah. One particular area where they're trying different sizes. I won't say a couple of them. They're trying some alternate sizes in that one particular area to see how that works. And it is a retirement area that they're trying it out. They, from what I remember at the last meeting, they are trying to move forward as production is I won't say behind, but they haven't been able to produce all the containers that are required, and there may be an opportunity to if County Council decides to go to some other options, then there may be an opportunity to do that in the future. I wouldn't even want to say the near future, but in the future. Have there been other communities? Yes, there's been lots of. I know Collingwood has put forth a request for additional sizes and stuff like that, and I believe some of the other communities have all. We've all heard it from throughout the entire county. So at this stage, they're still reviewing the. What's going to happen in the New Tech area, and they're looking at possibly moving a decision ahead sooner than what originally was planned. But I don't believe we have a specific date for that.
Councillor Patterson, you comfortable? I see there's other questions. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying that the county is considering a change. It might be opportunistic because they can't get the supplier, and for whatever reason, it sounds like for the public, there might be some advanced consideration for smaller sizes. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's
Certainly
basically
from
it.
the deputy mayor and myself, we've heard about it, and I think that smaller sizes will be becoming available. I don't know when. And it's up to county council to decide and deliberate on that. And again, just like this council, we have to take best advice from our staff, given that they have to make the decisions or make the contacts with the providers to get these materials. So we're doing the best we can at this point, and we are certainly hearing from the public and doing what we can. Regardless, the issue is still, we have to continue to collect this waste materials. And the contract will begin on November the 1st. So I would encourage residents to prepare, using it in a month's time. Okay, Mr. Walker, I think you're next. I think I saw your card, and then Mr. Lamers. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick comment. There are pockets of Stainer that still do not have their bins.
Okay.
Just as heads up. And they're spread throughout the town, so it's just not one area. There's streets. They've all gone around some of them and left other streets without. So anyways, I'm sure it'll all get done. We have another month yet. The other thing I want the public to understand is please read the information given in the buckets, as well as your calendar that came in the mail, because Stainer will have a different pickup day. So people need to understand and read what is provided for them to make sure that everything is put out on the correct day and the correct products are put in, and it tells you how to do all that. So just a little plug for everybody to get on board and make it work.
Councillor Walker, it's not just Stainer, it's all of Clearview will be changing to Wednesdays. So all of Clearview will be changing to Wednesdays. That's the intention right now. And I believe that's the approved schedule, but again, it could be amended based on the work of the contractor and the staff if they bring forward a report with any amendments. But at this time, it's Wednesday for Clearview Township. So the calendar, I think, it lays that out in it, what I saw. So I'll have to ask my wife. She grabbed it and parked it with all the other materials that we get who come in the mail like that. So John Lamers, did you have a question or a comment? And then Connie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, was there much discussion on all these bins being dropped off at vacant lots, empty laneways and vacant lots that are spread out throughout the township? And the other one is, what's going to happen to these people that refuse to use the bins and just keep putting their garbage out? Is it going to be picked up?
On the first item, yes, I brought that point up at the county council discussion in open session about the fact that these new bins were dropped off at locations that certainly didn't need them. Some locations received 2 and 3 times the number of bins that they actually need. And I actually used the example of one of our fire halls in Clearview Township, received 6 bins at a fire hall, 6, 2 recycling, 2 garbage, 2 organic waste at a fire hall. Like, I was thinking they might never fill those 2 recycling bins ever. Like, that's a lot of recycling. So to go in those 2 big bins. Anyhow, the county did assure us, and the staff assured in the question that I asked, that they would be reassessing those and picking up those that were duplicated, as well as some locations that were vacant lots. So that was discussed, and it's just part of the mistakes, I guess, that are being made during the distribution of these bins. Barry, have you got any comment on that too?
No, I think you've pretty much said that. And then the second question is what's going to happen if people refuse to use them? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. The bottom line is you cannot pay people to pick up garbage anymore. So it all has to be done mechanically. So that's the whole purpose of going, so that these drums, these things can be picked up and dumped into the truck. Nobody has to get out of the truck, nobody. So I would say that county is going to do their best to encourage everybody to use the bins. That would be my comments on that.
Thank you, Councillor Lamers. Thank you. Councillor Leishman.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that there's a few businesses that have two sets and really don't need them, like ourselves and Jim Harkness down the road. I mean, there's no way we would ever fill those bins in a week. So if you picked up all the sets that people don't want because they've got too many, you might have enough for the whole county. Just a thought.
Well, we'll certainly pass that along. For information for the public on this whole topic, by the way, Service Simco, which is the customer service branch of receiving phone calls at the county office, are very, very helpful. And you just give them a call and they can help you out. They can take that information. If anybody has any concerns, they'll be able to direct you or help you or mark down the information and pass it along. So Service Simco is a really good little tool that's available through the website at simco.ca. All right, anything else on the other two items? The forest, congratulations, Simcoe County Forest. We have a few Simcoe County forests in our township. Yes, Barry, go ahead.
Yes, I would just like to congratulate the county and on that. That's great, a great honor to have. And let it be known that Simcoe County has the largest municipal forest in the country.
You do. Yeah.
Largest municipal forest in the country. And I believe it's like 35,000 acres of municipal forest that are managed extremely well by our forestry department. Our forestry department is completely self-sufficient, earning something in the nature of $1.5 to $1.6 million a year. So they're completely self-sufficient.
And they're also forests they're used for recreational purposes too. So that's a good point to keep in mind. All right, anybody else with any comments? All right, well, we do have a county council meeting tomorrow. Let's have some fun agenda items, so we'll look forward to that, seeing you. Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
So I've got something else I'd like to add to the county.
Sure, go ahead.
Would now be the appropriate time to do that?
Sure.
So as most of you are aware, I am the Simcoe County representative on the Niagara Escarpment Commission. And I'd like to, and there are some things that involve Clearview as a result. I would like to say that the NEC passed the development permit for the parking lot that's going to be put on at the Lavender Farm on the 8th concession. So that was, or the 8th line, sorry. Gotta get my terminology right, on the 8th line. And that was passed as a 9-4 vote in favor.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that. And yes, as a county councillor, you serve on the Niagara Escarpment Commission, and we appreciate you doing that. We also appreciate that you're our deputy mayor here, so thank you for that. All right, any further questions? All right, council, let's go to the recommendation. Be it resolved that council of the township Clearview hereby receive the county reports for information. Can I have a mover and second? Where are we? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Deneen. Seeing no questions, I'll call a motion. All those in favor? Thank you, that carries. All right, now we're on to ward reports, and I look forward to hearing from everyone. We're going to start today at Councillor Patterson, and then Lamers, and then McKechnie. Councillor Patterson, you're up first.
Thank you. Couple items for the NVCA. The NVCA, this is something that has been being worked on for some time. The NVCA, net gains approach to planning applications. And so the final draft went through a review at the board. It's an attempt to balance mitigation measures on sensitive lands versus offsetting proposals. And it's something that is now in, I think, final form. And it's something that this municipality, the staff, should give some due regard to, because this will be the way that the NVCA will be approaching planning applications on lands regulated by the NVCA. I'll come back to that point in a second. Also, the board approved the draft budget for 2020 at our last meeting on Friday. And to be expected, revenues are slightly up. The grants have essentially stayed the same with some token amounts helping out. However, the insurance costs, for example, and other expenses we're projecting a downturn in expenses to offset their costs. The staff was able to stick to a upset level that was given back in April. And so the board was satisfied with the work done by the staff. There will be a 4.89% increase in levy to Clearview. It was 4.88 before. The hard numbers are that our levy will go up $4,117 as proposed. It's not final yet, obviously. Our current levy is 124.4, and it's going to be 129.6. So that's the proposal, based on, of course, the current value assessment. So we're in the assessment period now. Staff should get the draft booklet October 1st, no later than October 1st. And the NVCA is asking for comments back on November the 26th. With that date met, we expect to approve the 2020 budget on December 10th. So it's a little more time now given to all the municipalities for that. I will add to this the comments made by the deputy mayor with regards to tree planting. Sounds like some have an opinion that may or may not be founded in fact, but it may also be something that municipalities, on behalf of the residents, should ask the NVCA staff to consider. Those three items, the first two I mentioned about the gains, net gains approach, and the budget, and the tree planting, which seems to be a persistent comment coming, would make excellent topics. Maybe too much for one meeting, but I would suggest that it would be opportune, since the budget and the planning are important items for our residents and come to council, and that we've had some new senior management in our clerk and CAO, would be an excellent time for the executive teams, NVCA and Clearview, to meet and to discuss some of these points. I would add a personal comment to the deputy mayor's comment with regards to trees, is I wish the same fervor was felt when we are contemplating turning good agricultural land into commercial and industrial uses. So, but it's worth a good discussion, and I think there's a good reason why tree planting is being done by the NVCA, and why property owners want to do that. But I think I take his comments, and let's have a forum where that kind of a discussion can be put forward, and maybe we can come up with a resolution as to why or why not this should be done in Clearview. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Councillor. If I may, Councillor Patterson, are you suggesting that perhaps a special meeting of council to discuss the NVCA, or to have our opportunity for our senior management team to engage with the NVCA executive, or do you think that should be an offline meeting for staff to staff? What are you thinking?
Well, first of all, there is a process with the NVCA with regards to the budget, and
yes,
with regards to the net gains approach, to get your comments, to get Clearview's comments. That would be staff's comments, and there may be issues that staff would like to discuss with council. So those invitations are there. As in the past, when at this time of year, when these things are, I've always asked council, they want to have a presentation by the NVCA staff. My comments, and I do make that comment, and I was going to do that formally. However, my comments were directed mostly to staff, the planning staff would, I think, is familiar with the net gains approach that's been being discussed, and with the budget, it would be an opportunity again for the two groups to meet and discuss some of the issues that they have with planning with the NVCA. So,
Okay.
if you want me to put it into some kind of a resolution, I can do that, but I prefer to do an invitation to the staff to do that.
I would suggest, Tom, if you as our councillor rep on the NVCA, perhaps you could communicate with the clerk's department and the general manager of the NVCA and see if we can arrange a suitable time to have a delegation as we've had in the past for our budget discussions. And I see Mr. Ferguson has joined us. Perhaps just we can get a nod from Mr. Ferguson that he obviously will reach out to the NVCA staff and have a conversation with him. John, is that comfortable for you? Yeah. All right, Tom, I think that's what I think the best procedure would be then, to have you work with our clerk and see if we can arrange for an appropriate delegation, perhaps in the next month or two, to get 15 minutes of presentation from the NVCA about the budget. Does that sound good?
That was my intention, and I will follow up on it.
Well done, sir. All right, thank you very much. Anything further, Tom? Because I'm going to go to our next councillor. You're good? Okay, Councillor Lamers is next, then McKechnie, then Leishman. Hello, John. How are you doing?
Oh, not bad. Not much this week. Just had an evening hall board on the 23rd, and we're already got a couple of bookings for November and December, as long as the numbers stay where they are. So it's as long as the numbers keep going down, we're looking pretty good in evening for starting the book.
That's good to hear, John.
Yes.
All right. Well, say hello to the volunteers and thank them for us. Thank you, John. Councillor McKechnie is next, then Councillor Leishman, and then Councillor Walker. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, the Duntroon Hall, they're trucking along pretty good. They're also booking, and everything's going along great there. Dunedin Hall, they're having a few issues with their internet and technology issues. So for the time being, because they cannot meet in person, they're suspending their meetings, and they're working with staff and to find a resolution of that. So hopefully we can move that forward and have them meeting again. But for the time being, their meetings are suspended due to their internet issues in the valley there. I suppose that's one of the problems with living in a lovely part of the country. The internet is not very good. So anyway, that's the only thing from Ward 2.
Sometimes it's nice to not have any TV or any internet.
That's right. Yeah.
Councillor Leishman, you're next, then Walker, and then Mr. Broderick. Go ahead, Connie.
Thank you. Yes, I'll attest to that. I was 2 weeks without internet, and I honestly didn't miss it. Had my phone though, that was bad enough. I had a Sunnydale Hall meeting on Tuesday. We talked about the renovation quite extensively with the engineer from Burnsides and Terry Vachon, and it's looking pretty positive. I'm really excited. And we also have some rentals in October, so that's good. Sunnydale's doing well. I attended a social finance meeting. This is going along with our housing and homelessness initiative. So it kind of goes hand in hand. I'm just learning about this, so you'll have to bear with me because I don't know what it's about yet. Also spent a couple hours up at Sunnydale Hall cleaning it because our cleaning lady had a baby. So congratulations to Courtney, but you know what? I'm a little old to be cleaning the hall, but that's okay. I did it. We had fun. Saturday we went to the Creemore Market, and now there's only 2 markets left, so you better get out there because you're going to miss it if you don't. And it's a great market. The people, even if you don't buy anything, just go talk to people. It's great just to get out. I also went to a pop-up art show in Ottawa, and I can tell you it was so nice to be at an art show finally. I haven't done one for years physically. But I haven't been to one either for a while. So, and I saw 3 people from the One of a Kind show that we used to do the show with. So it was like Old Home Week. It was really nice. And I got stuff, of course. And I met the mayor's wife on the way out, and she had quite a few bags with her too.
Yes, she did.
So she did very well. I also went to the library this week and got my passport laminated. If you get it on your phone and you can get it off, they'll take it to the library. They will laminate it for you. Now you have to understand that passport has to have a watermark. So make sure you get that one. It's not enough to have your big sheet. You have to have the whole ball of wax. I'd also really like, this is on a personal note, sort of, if you've got the Creemore Echo this week, I really like to thank Mr. Dodd for the history lesson. It was really interesting article about the Indigenous communities that have lived and passed through Clearview. Quite an eye-opener, and it was really nice to see that information. Our history books weren't written like that, I can tell you that, not when I went to school. So it'd be nice to see those rewritten in the proper way. And that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Connie. Good to see you. Councillor Walker, you're next, then Mr. Broderick, and then Councillor Deneen. Hello, Robert.
Yeah, hello there, Your Worship. Thank you very much. Not a whole lot this week, other than October the 6th, we have a youth committee meeting coming up. And then I just want to say to the public works staff and to the contractors for the sidewalks, what a great job they've done in putting in the new sidewalks, the proper width, and cleaning up after them, at least for the ones that I have seen anyways in Stainer. Very nice, and that's certainly going to help improve our mobility issues for those that need the sidewalks to maneuver around. And then we just have the public information meeting this Thursday on the southeast corner here of Centennial Street for the public information session. And that's about it at this time, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. Thank you for mentioning the sidewalks. That's great. Appreciate that. Councillor Broderick, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship. On September the 14th, I attended the Creemore BIA meeting during a quite a lightning storm.
Yeah.
That was an interesting evening. On September the 16th, I actually visited the Agra farm, did a tour there, and a tour of a micro grow operation, all of which was very insightful. On September the 17th, I was present at the check presentation from Sunrise Homes to the Clearview Library. It was very exciting to see. September 21st, attended the Clearview Library board meeting. And that brings me up to date.
All right, thank you very much, John. Thank you. Phyllis, Councillor Deneen, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, everyone. I'll steal a little bit of the mayor's thunder. We had the pleasure, he and I, of delivering a certificate of congratulations to Jim and Felicity Kinnear for their 50th wedding anniversary on Saturday. September 25th was their anniversary. Congratulations to them. Also, Laurie McDonald, the lady that did the pop-up, the art-powered pop-up event in Ottawa. She has sent thank you to everyone that was involved in the township for their help and consideration. And she says, we had a fantastic day last Saturday with the art-powered pop-up event. The feedback was great from visitors and participating artists. People are very happy to be out enjoying some local art and culture with real humans. So that was nice. It's too bad the rain didn't hold off, but I don't think it dampened anybody's spirits there. And you mentioned September 14th. That was quite the laser light show we had for my birthday there, John. And I too went to the library. I got a passport for my mother. I got one for myself and Kevin. I got one for my son David and my daughter-in-law Christine. They were really patient with me. They did all 5 for me. I'm not sure if I should be advertising it out there. I made a little donation to the cup, and yeah, it was all really nice, and they were just super great there. And the Nottawa Hall, we met on the 22nd. We're still having discussions about how to reopen. And we're going to talk to Amanda again. She, I understand, was on vacation. So we're going to follow up with her and see what we can do in that respect. But that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. And thank you for joining me at that celebration for Jim and Felicity. That was really great. Deputy Mayor Bird, do you have anything further?
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is a meeting with the station on the green. The Clearview Community Church is back using it. We have a great manager there now, Debbie Lee, and she's doing a great job making sure that the COVID protocols are followed, and they're doing all the recordings and everything they're supposed to. We are having problems trying to rent the place out, or whether we're willing to rent the place out, because of the delay at Village on the Green and the delay with the construction of Village on the Green. It's virtually making access to the front doors of the station on the Green almost virtually impossible. So we're going to continue ahead and just wait and see what develops and get in conversations with them. But it looks like they're quite a way behind schedule through various reasons, through COVID and everything else, supply and demand for product and material. That's about it.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I was by the station on the Green today and noticed the steel has been risen around the staging area, which is lovely to see. Gives you a real understanding of how extensive that project is, and it is a lot of work. I appreciate the contractors that got a lot of work to do there, and that's certainly going to be a challenge to during the transition of construction season into our rental season at the hall there. So I appreciate that's a challenge. So we'll certainly try to keep an eye on it and help them out wherever we can. All right, members of council, I just have a few items I want to share with you. I have been attending the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee. It's the committee, of course, hosted by the town of Blue Mountains. Our council supported us participating in that. I've been involved in a couple of discussions that are offline with just 2 or 3 members of the committee, where we're discussing the future of that committee. I'll be attending a meeting coming up about that. If you have any questions or comments about physician recruitment, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk and discuss and hear your comments about physician recruitment. The other thing I wanted to mention, you may or may not know as members of council, certainly Barry does as a county councillor. I was appointed by the county council to sit on a committee with the hospital for the financial review committee with the board on behalf of the county of Simcoe. The hospital board has halted the work of that committee, and since then they've asked me to sit with them on the hospital redevelopment committee. So I'm very honored to be the county representative on the Collingwood General Marine Hospital, our regional hospital redevelopment committee. So the work continues there. We look forward to moving us through phase 2 into the subsequent phases where we'll be building a new hospital. So that work continues, and I look forward to that. The other thing I want to mention is CIO Ferguson and myself are a member of the Mayor CIO Forum that's operated by the town of Collingwood through Mayor Saunderson. Our mayor and CIOs have been meeting regularly, and we get updated on work that each community is doing. Perhaps I mentioned at the last meeting that we had a tour with the MTO members to talk about transportation concerns that are regional across this entire region. It was a very successful thing. And other items that the forum is going to be looking at too are regional transportation issues regarding transit, bus transit, some of those issues that are coming up. So I just wanted to mention that that's one of the things that I've been doing on your behalf. Also, I just want to mention socially, one of the things that I got to do is I was asked by the Stainer Lions Club to participate with Robert Walker, who's a longtime Lion in this community, to participate in the draw for the car So what a thrill that was to hear, one, that the Lions Club had totally sold out of all their tickets for the Mustang draw. And then the drum was literally packed with all the ticket stubs. So it was an honor for me to reach in there and pull one out. And I did caution everyone just before we did it that my wife had purchased tickets. And I was excited to think that I might be drawing out my wife's card, and I did not. I drew out another person's card, which is fine. And I was very happy to say that a person from Collingwood was the recipient of the Mustang. So congratulations to the Lions Club again for a great fundraiser and the contribution that they make to our community. It's always significant and always appreciated. Great volunteers there. And the last group I want to mention also is the Kinsmen Club. I was recently asked to speak at the Kinsmen Club to deliver a few words on behalf of the municipality. It was my honor to do that, and I met with some members of their club. They didn't have their entire club membership out, as they're also trying to continue their social distancing. But it was nice to see some of those guys who are wanting to work in our community and do fundraising for our community. So just want to give a shout out to them. And that's all we have underneath ward reports, members of council. So go back to our regular agenda. For those that are paying attention, we're moving on to item number 12, which is our department reports. So first item, CS 049-2021 Committee of Adjustment. Recommendation be it resolved the Council of Township Clearview hereby one receive CS 049-2021, the Committee of Adjustment for September 2021. It's a report for information. Mover and seconder on this motion, please. Deputy Mayor Burton, seconded by Councillor Lamers. Any questions or comments in regards to the Committee of Adjustment? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. Item CS 051-2021, proposed extension of the interim control bylaw 2064 to prohibit the establishment of cannabis cultivation and cannabis production facilities. Okay, Mayor Burton's with us. Hello, Mayor. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township Clearview hereby one receive report CS 051-2021 for information. And item number 2, pass bylaw 2197, being a bylaw to extend interim control bylaw 20-64 to prohibit the establishment of cannabis operations within the Township of Clearview under subsection 38-1 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended. Mover and seconder, and then we'll hear our presentation. Deneen and Walker. Councillor Deneen, Councillor Walker. Thank you very much. Hello, Ms. Burton. You've got a lot of work on this. You've got a lot of work on this project, haven't you?
Yes, and I'm actually a bit apologetic because I really was hoping that I would have a draft bylaw and report for you here tonight, but it didn't get done quite in time. So I thought better safe than sorry. Bring forward an extension of the interim control bylaw. I'm going to really dedicate some time to get back to you. I want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can. So hence the little bit of time extension. And then if council does approve the changes to the zoning bylaw, then we could, once it comes into full force and effect, should we not get any appeals, then we'll be able to repeal the interim control bylaw. So although the extension is for a year, hopefully it will only be a matter of a couple of months.
Okay, thank you very much. I see Mr. CAO is with us, so they're available for questions. Members of council, any questions to our staff? Mr. Lamers and then Mr. Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Tamara, will this affect anybody that's got any applications in?
Thank you, Councillor Lamers. I don't think there's anybody that is going to be put out too much by an extra 2 or 3 months. So we should be fine there. Certainly people do have the draft bylaw. I am looking at so that they can work on some future plans at this point, but I don't have any applications before me right now for anything. Hopefully it won't affect people too much. Now I am looking at making some adjustments based on the public information that we received. I don't anticipate it to be exactly what we put forward before. I also wanted to mention that I also did tour one of the micro grow operations, and that was very enlightening to me as well. So that's going to help inform my recommendation to council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lamers. Councillor Patterson, and then is anybody else? Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just I think John asked the same question with regards to new applications. I take that's what Councillor Lamers was talking about. And the other part of the question I have is any of the exempt, any of those that were legally existing operations that were exempt, well, are they also held up by this interim control bylaw? For if they were contemplating expansion?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Patterson. We don't have anything before us that's being held up pending the interim control bylaw. So we should be fine there. Obviously for Peace Naturals and AgriFarm, we are looking at some adjustments to put them into agricultural industrial zone. And should anybody else want to do something similar like processing, no matter the size of the processing, they would have to apply for a zoning amendment. And so that's the proposal at this point. And I don't see that part changing, but I don't have any applications before me for that. So I think we're all right.
Go ahead, Tom, supplemental.
Yeah, and just a last comment. So quite a good report. All our cannabis reports from Mara and the planning department are quite good. The one thing I've noticed in some of the reporting is that, as we should, we reference the PPS, which is fine, obviously. However, there is another document that's out, and we're aware of it, OMAFRA's guideline for the use of ag land, and in particular, the conversion of it from commercial to industrial, where it's appropriate. There's 3 categories. They are, the last report I've seen, I'm assuming it's they're quite specific in the where development can happen. Now there's a bit of a gray area with cannabis, whether or not it's, depending on the processing, whether it's agricultural or commercial or industrial. I understand that. But can we give due regard to that document as well? Because different from the PPS, where it's a regulation or a provision or statutory statement that's made that's broad, the OMAFRA guide is an application guide. It interprets the PPS. It further expands it in a little more practical language. And I will be referring to it when we come back, when the bylaw comes forward. Because I think there's some areas that are worth discussing. It shouldn't be left to the interpretation of a single municipality. I'd like a little broader understanding of what, for example, agricultural related means, and the other categories that are in there. So I would just ask that that planning also refer to the OMAFRA guideline as well.
Mara, do you have a, Mara, can
Yes.
you just outline some of that for us?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, we're very familiar with the Green Book, we call it. That's our little terminology for it. We use it all the time. We certainly are looking at the difference between industrial. And if you are going to be zoning for ag industrial, then you will have to meet the terms of the provincial policy. And we certainly do look to the Green Book in that regard. And then cultivation would be more of the agricultural aspect of it. So we are looking to make that distinction. And that was something we discussed at the public meeting and in the report. So we are still heading down that same road.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else with any questions to our staff? All right, I would like to ask just a timing question, if I may. Mary, your report does outline, obviously, that it is appealable to extend the bylaw. but the timing of the work that you're undertaking, we could see something before the end of the year from you and your department. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so frankly, we could be passing something December, January in that neighborhood, or before, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Oh,
You're right.
okay, well, that helps, and I think that makes sense. Given that the public meeting was quite extensive, I mean, holy cow, there was like 18 presenters. It was a long evening that night, if you guys all remember. So I'm glad that we're given the time for our staff to duly review all that material. If there's nothing further, anybody else with any questions? Okay, I'm prepared to call the motion. You got a mover and seconder. Thank you, staff. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. All right, let's see. We're moving on to bylaw enforcement, again under section 12. BL 008 2021. It's a Center Street crossing guard. Center Street being here in Stayner. Recommendation be it resolved. Hello, Joe. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township hereby one, receive report BL 008 2021 Center Street crossing guard dated September the 27th, 2021. And item 2, approve removing the school crossing guard at Center Street and County Road 42 in Stayner. Okay, a mover and seconder on this motion, please. Mr. Lamers, Mr. Walker, Mr. Lamers, Mr. Walker, thank you. Joe, before we go on, very good report, and you often review crossing guard situations across our township, not just this one, but I know you and your department regularly review them, so thank you for that work. Would you like to highlight anything from your report, Joe?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Your Worship. Just to outline it, we currently have a crossing at Center Street and County Road 42. The purpose of that crossing was to get kids from the west side of 42 to the east side back and forth to go to Byng School. Byng School has now since closed, so the crossing is no longer needed. There are a handful of students that still use it daily, but if you look at the map there attached to the report, there is an alternative route that's safer and doesn't require them to cross at County Road 42.
All right, that's well outlined in your report. And as I said, I'm glad that you review all of our crossing locations on a regular basis. So thank you for doing that. Any questions to Joe or staff on this report? Seeing none. Thank you, Joe. Members of council, you've got a motion. No, sorry, Mr. Walker. Go ahead there, Robert.
Thank you, Worship. Just to Joe, the alternate route, Joe, have you had a chance to talk to the school and have them send out any information with regards to the alternate route for safe travel from that area of town up to Clearview Meadows? Joe, just helps with a bit of PR for us to help them get away from 42 and swing them over to Quebec and then up across to the lighting.
Yeah, through Your Worship to Councillor Walker. No, that was pending this meeting. I do have some correspondence ready to send with the outcome of this.
Okay, good job. I would suggest if you have any need for assistance from communications through the CAO and our clerk, we can enlist the communications officer to help you if you need to do a well-prepared statement on that. Thank you, Joe. All right, members of council, anything further? Okay, okay, we've got a mover and seconder on the motion. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, thank you, Joe. All right, council, moving on to page 4. Here we are, human resources, and also our CAO is on this one. There's Tammy Gill. Hello, Tammy. Okay, human resources. This is a 2-part resolution. So before I go on, I'm going to ask for mover and seconder on the first, and then I'll ask for mover and seconder on the second. HR Report 002-2021 COVID-19 Vaccination Policy. Recommendation number 1, be it resolved, the Council of the Township Clearview hereby 1, receive Report HR 002-2021, the COVID-19 Vaccination Policy dated September 27, 2021 for information. Mover and seconder on that motion. Mr. Broderick, Mr. Walker, thank you. Tammy or John, Mr. Ferguson, do you have anything you'd like to add in regards to the motion to receive? Tammy?
Your
John?
worship, nothing to add, but we're prepared to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to the motion to receive? Members of council? Yes, Deputy Mayor Burton.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I just want to say that I will not be supporting this motion to receive, although I am a strong supporter of vaccinations and encourage everybody to do so. I have a problem in the report where it talks about termination. I still believe that people have a choice whether to be vaccinated or not, and to make it mandatory and a result of not having it done that you could be subject to dismissal is, I have a problem with that. I believe we're coming near to the end of this COVID crisis. And when I say near to the end, probably within the next 6 months, I think there still should be options for people to work from home who choose not to have their vaccinations or, take leave of absence, whatever. So I will not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other members? Mr. McKechnie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to Barry's comments there. So if we receive this report, it doesn't mean that we're approving the vaccination policy, does it? I mean, the vaccination policy is between staff, between the CAO and senior management and the township employees. So can someone just clarify for me that if we receive the report, we're just receiving it for information. We're not necessarily technically approving it. Is that correct? Because that's out of our hands. That's not for us to approve this report or this policy, right?
Yeah, so for some clarity, the CAO and the senior management provide the employment policies, and we continue to provide guidance. That's our role. Ms. Clerk, you want to speak?
Thank you, Your Worship, for you to Councillor McKechnie, and just to reiterate your comments there, Mayor Measures. That's correct. This is just being sent to council for information. It's been approved at the administration level through senior management. So just receiving it for information is not committing council to approving it, because that's already been approved through the administration.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKechnie. Anybody else with any questions in regards to the item number 1, the motion to receive? All right, members of council, thank you, staff. I'm prepared to call the motion. You've heard the motion. We've got a mover and seconder. Those in favor? Are there those opposed? Yes, thank you. Do noted. That motion carries. All right, council. Recommendation number 2 on this same topic. Be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby 1, support the members of council be required to comply with the township's COVID-19 vaccination policy, understanding that where the policy relates to employee status or accommodations, it may not specifically relate to council members as they are elected officials and not employees. And I'd like to add of the corporation. Can I get a mover and seconder on that motion? Mr. Lamers, seconded by Ms. Leishman. Thank you very much. Mr. CAO or Ms. Tammy Gill, would you like to comment on this before I ask for questions?
Well, yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just getting back, just reiterating what you said. One is an administrative policy. The other is a policy for council, and the administration cannot set policy for council. That's why it's on the council agenda.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions then from members of staff? Or sorry, members of council to members of staff. Mr. McKechnie.
Thank you, Your Worship. So what happens if we don't comply? I think right now all of council are double vaccinated. But what happens if a booster is required down the road and we do not comply? I can't see anyone from staff disciplining us or firing us. I mean, that's up to the electorate to do every 4 years. So what's maybe Tammy could answer this, or the CAO, just if we don't comply, what are your recommendations then?
Good question. Staff members who would like to take that?
Yeah, Your Worship, Tammy, you're welcome to if you'd like me to. I don't mind. It would depend on the particular circumstance. However, because there's a vaccine passport requirement and whatnot, that could come into play as it relates to municipal facilities, and that would be for all involved. More importantly, we don't know how long this is going to go on. It could be over in 6 months, as Deputy Mayor Burton had mentioned, or it could extend into the next municipal election. We're not sure. So all of these policies are dependent upon the instructions and standards that are coming out of the health unit. And so under workplace health and safety, we have an obligation to protect employees and frankly, anybody that's in our facilities, but it specifically states from illness. So that's part of why we have to move towards these measures. But if things changes, if the vaccine percentage increases, I think it's about 80% in our area now or close to it. May not be specifically for Clearview. If it becomes 90%, we're not sure what the health unit will do, if they'll relax a little bit on their measures. But as it stands right now, we're following the recommendations that come out of the health unit.
Mr. McKechnie for a supplemental.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm sitting over here in the Township Council chambers right now. And I'm here because, you know, I'm double vaccinated and I meet the requirements to come into a township facility right now. I'm a little bit, I still don't know that, it's still a gray area that if I don't get let's say a booster down the road when a booster is required, it's a bit of a gray area. And for, you know, I fully intend to, but it's still a gray area of what sort of discipline can be, you know, can be brought against me in that regard. The other thing too is what is the province doing right now? You know, in Queen's Park, members of provincial parliament, they are not required to comply with a vaccination policy at this point, are they? I mean, they are required to be double vaccinated to be in probably a facility, a provincial facility, the same as we are, but they're not required to be to adhere to any sort of vaccination policy. Is that correct?
John or Tammy? I'm not sure on that one.
Your Worship, I'm not sure specifically if the provincial elected officials are required to or not. I know that the Premier's office has recommended everybody get their vaccines, and I believe that a lot of the elected officials have done so, but I'm not sure to what extent. And I'm not sure what can be done in that regard. That's the provincial lawmakers rest with our provincial elected officials, and it's really in their court.
Yeah, okay, there's some more requests. Doug, can I go to Barry next and then I'll come back to you and or anybody else? Barry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I appreciate, let me say that I had a conversation with Tammy Gill today and with our clerk as well, and totally understand their position, and I understand, you know, the importance of protecting workers and all that sort of good stuff. I also made a point to talk to the chair of the Simcoe Muskoka health unit, and it's a recommendation from the health unit. It's not a mandatory thing. It's strictly a recommendation. So the health unit isn't making it mandatory. But for the same reasons as before, I still believe that people should have a choice. I think this part of the motion, first of all, I think it's irrelevant because we are not employees of the township. We were elected officials. More or less, we're members of the board, so to speak. And the fact that we are all double vaccinated, so I think it's not relevant to us. And for the other reason down the road, I still think people should be entitled to a choice of whether they want to be vaccinated or not. I'm a strong supporter. I'm double vaccinated. I would go get would encourage everybody to be vaccinated to help bring this to an end, but I still have to think that there's, that people have a choice in this country, in this world that we live in today. So I will not be supporting the motion.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else? And then I'll go back to, okay, Councillor Patterson's next. Doug, you're still in line, don't worry. Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that we can go through a bunch of what ifs. I'm more interested in the why. The why is because we're protecting the people we work with. And if we feel, and I think this is where the staff is coming from, if we feel that there is a potential risk that develops with the working group, which includes council, then there should be some measures. And I think that's the reason why I think it's a good precaution to err on the side of what harm could happen to the people we work with. That's what the staff is doing to protect us when we're in the room with them. And I think it's an equal measure coming from council to staff and the public.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Broderick, I saw your card. Was there someone else? Wasn't sure if there wasn't or not. Okay, Councillor Broderick, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I support the motion in that, and I can appreciate all of the comments made, but to me, the motion should give council and staff a measure of comfort that may not otherwise exist.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Lamers, and then back to Doug. Go ahead, John.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. To Tammy or John, you're going to be working with these people that aren't vaccinated and do everything you can to try to work with them. Like, it's not going to be you don't have a vaccination, you're leaving. It's going to be a long time before you get to the end process.
John?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Councillor Lamers. Look, none of us take any pleasure in having to be heavy-handed with any of our staff. They all, contribute so well to what we want to do as a community. We're following the instructions, and although it's a recommendation, the legislation does suggest that we do follow what is recommended out of the health unit. Whether it's strong legislation or not, it's never been tested. Again, it goes back to the fact that we have an obligation. We have a legal obligation under workplace health and safety, and that's clear, and it specifically mentions viruses and as an illness, and bacteria, I think, as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I before I said it was in stone, I would want to review the actual act. But ultimately, that's why we have to behave responsibly in that area. If staff have a legitimate medical excuse, then we can accommodate. And our goal is to work with people as best we possibly can. This comes into play October 1st, and there's going to be several aspects of what is required over a period of time. So we'll be in communication with staff that may fall into this category, and obviously try to work with them and try to educate as best we can, and but also by protecting everybody that we work with at the same time. And we would not take any pleasure in having anybody terminated, but that is the recommendation that has come out of the health unit, and that's been the advice of the legal advisors to Simcoe County, I believe, and their policy is basically identical to the one that we're adopting of what Simcoe has. I spoke to many of the other CAOs on the CAO conference calls this past week. Most of them are following pretty well exactly what we're doing. And if the others aren't, they just haven't mentioned it. But most people on the call are doing what we're doing here in Clearview.
Councillor Lamers, you comfortable? Thank you. All right. I saw Mr. McKechnie. Is there anybody else? Go ahead, Doug. Back to you.
Hey, thank you, Your Worship. So I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with the recommendation. First of all, I think that it might have been better had it been brought to council through the mayor's office. I think that that was the appropriate channel. I'm uncomfortable having staff bring this recommendation to me that I could possibly be fired, by staff. I don't think that's appropriate. I think it's something that the mayor should have come to council with. So also too, it's just not really clear to me, that part of it. If we don't adhere to the policy, what's going to happen? And, we as elected officials, we're not employees, we're elected officials. And I come back to the point that the only people that can discipline us or have us removed from this office are the electorate every 4 years. And and lastly, getting back to the province, I checked, and the province do not have this policy for their members of parliament, members of provincial parliament. They do not have this policy in place. So, so I will not be supporting recommendation number 2. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Nothing further from anybody else? I'd like to add a couple of quick comments. First of all, I appreciate what Councillor McKechnie is saying about bringing something like this from the mayor's office. To be clear, again, back to recommendation 1 was that it's a policy that it's an HR policy that the staff through the CAO, the leadership of the CAO and the leadership of the senior management team, brought this information forward, and it's in their responsibility to do that, as the CAO outlined, that they have a responsibility to do that, to provide safe working conditions, and they have a responsibility to bring it in. So that's what that is. As far as the municipal leaders, the elected officials, I tend to agree with some of the comments that have been said here tonight, particularly, if I may, to Councillor Patterson, that we have to work with our staff, and so we have to do our best to help protect each other and them, and all those that we interact with, and it's a personal choice. The other point to Councillor McKechnie, yes, certainly this council knows, and the public know, that the Township of Clearview did put out a press release on my ask that we did notify the public that the 9 members of Clearview Township Council are fully double vaccinated at this time, and are, frankly, we believe in vaccination. So all those things are positive. The point is that as elected officials, we're not obligated to follow the direction given to us by employment standards, but we are obligated to each other, to look after each other, and try to keep socially distanced from each other, as well as to not spread this virus around. It's in the best interest to try to protect our community and try to protect our families, and selfishly, it's also our own best interest to look after our own health. So I appreciate the staff bringing this this motion forward. I can assure you that there was some good discussion between the clerk and myself and our CAO about this motion being on the table. I appreciate the additional comments that were included in the agenda about the extra context as to why recommendation number 2 was also presented, and I'm comfortable with how it was presented here tonight. I am prepared to support the motion, given the fact that COVID-19 continues to evolve. A little more than a year ago, I was joking with us on council when we were having a meeting. I think I was in the basement of my house when we were having our first versions of these meetings. And I said, the directions from the province change every 20 minutes. And they do. At one point, they were literally changing during the day as to what the directions were going to be. Fortunately, things are not changing as quickly as they used to, but we are getting an understanding about how to handle COVID-19. And I think as a society, we're now accepting some of these directions and best advice, and as the deputy mayor says, the recommended practices. So I think we're moving in the right direction. And I would also suggest to you, I'm certainly not a doctor, and I would say that I would not be surprised one bit if we're dealing with this in 12 months' time. I really would not be surprised in one bit. And so let's just move ahead. I would suggest to you also that the clerk's office, faced with the pending municipal election in the future, may need to consider other recommendations for any potential candidates that may want to put their name forward. And we may have to have that discussion with the council and seek direction from the Office of the Minister of Municipal Affairs to assist us with that. So those are my comments. I'm going to go to Councillor Deneen because she put her card up. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support it. I have my druthers about telling people what to do as well with their own lives. But if we are holding our staff to those high standards, we should follow them as well. And we all have our passports. If we need to get into a restaurant, who's protecting those staff members? We're doing our best with what the hand we've been dealt. So I'm going to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deneen. And that actually just reminded me that, again, this council did pass a resolution that we would continue to meet in this format right here. But given the fact that we are all vaccinated, there is opportunity for us to meet in person in a safe, socially distant manner. We can continue to conduct the business of the corporation and the government of the municipality of Clearview. And so we can meet in person in smaller groups. And if necessary, we can meet as a council in person. I doubt that will happen. I'm just saying to you that as the mayor, it could happen. But, you know, we could also be dealing with this in 12 months, like I said. So there's a lot of things that are unknown in this. So first of all, I want to thank and acknowledge the leadership of our staff, senior management, and our CAO for reviewing this policy and discussing it with our staff and bringing forward the recommendations as you have. And I would say that I think we can complete our debate and our discussion at this time. Unless there's anything further, I would like to see the clerk. She jumped in. I'm not sure, Sasha, if you had something you wanted to add. No, you're okay? Okay, nice to see you. Anything further? Okay, council, I believe we have a mover and seconder on the motion. We've had a good debate. I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion will carry, and thank you very much, everybody. Again, thank you to our CAO and senior management staff. Tammy, the continual work of HR management continues here at the Township of Clearview. Good for you. All right, council, moving on to finance. Let's see if we can get through this one here. FIN 023-2021 Development Charge Interest Rate Policy. There's someone we haven't seen in a while. Hello, Kelly. Recommendation. Be resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, approve the development charge interest rate policy. If I can add, as described in FIN 023. Thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder on that motion? Mr. Broderick, is there a seconder? Mr. Lamers. Hello, Ms. McDonald, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention this is being brought to council because there is actually an option to choose what interest rate you want to go with. There are some municipalities that are setting it at a flat 5%. My problem with that is there's a potential for this to go on in installments for nonprofit housing for 21 years. And that flat fee just didn't sit right with me. I'm following the county's lead. They're going with the prime, bank prime plus 3%, and that's what I'm recommending in this policy as well.
All right. So it can fluctuate given whatever the bank prime rate may be at any given day or month.
Correct.
Any members of council with any questions to the report? All right, seeing none, we've got a mover. Thank you, Kelly. We've got a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you, that carries. Mr. CAO, here's something we haven't talked about in a while, the Provincial Police OPP Board. You know, we do meet with the OPP occasionally, and this is something that came up out of that. So here's the recommendation. CAO 003, recommendation, be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report CAO 003-2021 Ontario Provincial Police Board update composition dated September 27, 2021. And item 2, approve the change requested by the Ministry of Solicitor General to the OPP Detachment Board for the Huronia West Detachment, hereby reducing the number of provincial appointees from 3 to 2. And item 3, approve an 11-member OPP Detachment Board consisting of 2 municipal representatives from each municipality, 1 community representative from each municipality, and 2 provincial appointees. Okay, a mover and seconder, and then we'll hear from Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Broderick, Mr. Walker, thank you very much. John, this is something we talked about at our most recent CPAC meeting, and we were advised of this change. Is there anything you'd like to add, John?
No, just to jog council's memory, we had recommended an appointment with the other two communities involved, 2 representatives from each municipality, which would brought us up to 9, and then 3 from the province. And this is a reduction of 1, so it's gone from 12 to 11 member board. Just this is the only change, a reduction in the provincial appointees from 3 to 2.
Okay. If I may, I'll answer or give council one thing to consider, and that is that this came directly from the Solicitor General's office. Actually, they received reports from the Township of Springwater, the Town of Wasaga Beach, and our council, and that was their recommendation. So in order to approve this, we're just asking for this recommendation to carry. And then that way it will go back to them and they'll establish the new police board for this entire detachment area. Anybody have any questions to John or perhaps myself who sit on that committee? No? All right. Thank you, John. Any members of council? We've got a motion in front of you, a mover and seconder. Can I prepare to call the motion? All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, over to legislative services, land sale. Little piece of Elm Street we need to clear up here. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1 receive LS 016 land sale part of Elm Street dated September 27, 2021. And item 2, that staff be directed to commence the process required to finalize the sale and present a bylaw to stop up, close, declare surplus, and convey part of Elm Street legally described as part of Huron Street, aka Elm Street, Plan 214, Geographic Township of Nottawasaga, being Part 1 of Plan 51R4100, Township of Clearview, to the abutting property owners for consideration at a subsequent meeting in accordance with the Township Sale of Land Bylaw number 0464. Okay, mover and seconder on this wonderful motion. Ms. Leishman and Ms. Deneen. Ms. Leishman, Ms. Deneen. And I'm not sure if our clerk would like to speak to this, or is there anybody on staff who would like to speak to it? It is a small little parcel of land. Sasha?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. Through you to the rest of council. So this is to facilitate a long-standing encroachment that's been brought on this property for the previous property owners. The current property owner has requested to purchase that small portion of land that's actually within our road allowance. You can see from the pictures in the report that actually part of the house sits on the township road allowance. Council has already agreed to sell that portion. The property owner agreed to the purchase price and to pay the legal fees, survey costs, and the appraisal fees. So this is just to kind of move forward with the notice to be put in the newspaper, and then a bylaw to declare it surplus, stop it up, close it, will be brought forward to council, I believe, at the October 25th meeting.
Fair enough. It's amazing the little pieces of land that we have around the township that all need to get fixed in our. All right. Any questions to Sasha or staff? All right. Seeing none, members of council, you've heard the motion. I've got a mover and seconder. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. All right. Thank you, Sasha. Okay. Council, we're into bylaws. Believe it or not, we have a single bylaw in this entire meeting. Extension of the interim control bylaw 20-64. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2197 being a bylaw to extend the interim control bylaw 20-64 that prohibits the establishment of cannabis cultivation and cannabis production facilities in the township of Clearview for 1 additional year, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 27th day of September 2021. Can I have a mover and seconder on the bylaw, please? Mr. Broderick, Mr. Walker, thank you. Any questions? I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you very much. 13, notices of motion, new business. Any questions or new business? All right, seeing none, I have the bylaw to confirm. Recommendation be it resolved. Bylaw 2198, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the September 27, 2021 council meeting be presented and read a first, second, and third time. Finally passed on the 27th day of September 2021. A mover and seconder, please, on the confirmation. Did I see a yellow card? Yes. Hi, go ahead, Councillor Deneen. Yes, before I go on.
Yes, sorry about that. I was hoping to catch you before you started reading.
Sure.
I just think we're remiss in not mentioning the great work that our Public Works and Roads Department has been doing in the last week after the rainstorms.
No kidding.
And I just wanted to commend them on that before we go away for the night. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. You're absolutely right. We got a pile of water in our community. We certainly did. And there was an awful lot of work and an awful lot of extra effort put in by our public works staff. And we appreciate the work that they did to restore some washouts at various corners and deal with ditching. And so it's congratulations and thanks to them. Mr. Ferguson, if you want to pass that along, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right. I have read the confirmation bylaw. Does anybody need me to read it again? I'll look for a mover and seconder on the confirmation bylaw. Mr. Walker, Mr. Broderick. Thank you. Any questions on the confirmation bylaw? Seeing none, I'll call it. All those in favor? Thank you. The bylaw carries. And item 15 is our motion to adjourn. Recommendation be it resolved at the council meeting be adjourned at 7:36 p.m. A mover and seconder on the motion to adjourn. Ms. Deneen, Mr. McKechnie, and the time will be 7:36 p.m. Meeting is adjourned. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Thank you very much. All the best, everybody, and thank you very much for participating with your shirts tonight.
I have an unofficial question.
Why
do some shirts have a feather on them and some don't? Can I trade my shirt with the turtle for a shirt with the feather on? Because I like the feather. Anybody who's got a 3 extra large with a feather, I'll trade you.
You look great in your